Dave, I'm delighted to see you back at Meadow Lane, and you've been associated in a long playing career with, I reckon, a dozen clubs. And yet I've always had the impression, rightly or wrongly, you'll tell me, that Notts County has had a rather special place for you out of those 12. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And that's because it was the club that gave me the opportunity to play professional football. Up until that point, I was a semi-professional footballer, studying and working full-time, playing part-time. And that season, actually, I felt my aspirations to play professional football would have been realised by Barnet getting into the league.
They were in the Southern League, of course. That's why, as you say, you were playing non-league football.
We was in the conference. So the National League now, the conference.
Yes.
And the season before they won it and I left, we came runners up. I can't remember the team that went up. It might have been Maidstone. But we came runners up. And the following season, Barry Fry wanted to make a real push for getting promotion. And I think he might have signed Paul Harding that season. Broke the transfer record. Tried to sign Paul Furlong, also from Enfield, I believe. David Howell came in and he wanted to make a push for promotion. Myself and Paul Harding played a key role in the early part of the season anyway.
Before you came here?
Before I came here.
For a joint fee of 200,000?
Correct, yes. And it always got documented that it was 25 grand. Which, yeah, I remember reading it, and that's what a lot of the documentation said. But yeah, I think eventually it was 200 grand combined.
You left one manager, very much a personality in the game, Barry Fry. We all know him, and he is a personality. You left him to come with another who continues to be a big personality in the game, in Neil Warnock,
yes,
didn't you?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I don't mind big personalities. I think I'm not so much of a big personality, probably just a big guy more than anything else. But yeah, they both had a personality, which is good for team spirit.
You enjoyed playing under both of them then?
I did indeed. Yeah, we had at both. The team spirit in both camps was very, very good.
And that's important.
Massively important. I think it's been underestimated over the years how important the team being together and that team spirit, how much it makes a difference. Certainly the teams that I've been successful in, we've always had a good team spirit. You may not necessarily be the best mates off the field, but when you're in work and training and you're staying away, we got to have so much fun together and trust each other.
And the other big word, I agree with everything you've said, of course I do, but the other big word is confidence, isn't it?
Confidence is key. It's massive. Some players are naturally very, very confident. Every player goes through spells when they're not confident, and it's up to the manager.
Did you?
Oh yeah, plenty. When I was younger, and certainly towards the end of my career, and yeah, spells when I'm not scoring goals, or every player goes through it. You either learn how to get yourself out of those spells. Sometimes the manager can help you by getting out of those spells, but ultimately, confidence is the main thing that a player needs to go out there and perform.
You're now back with Notts County, and you're the Academy Manager. Now, this club's future must, the evidence is obvious and we won't go into all of that, but this club's future must depend to a very large extent on finding and grooming, maturing young talent, bringing young talent through. Now, it's done that over the years. It hasn't done it consistently, but it's done it. When I first came here myself in 1959, there were two players who went on to play at the highest level.
Yeah.
Both of them sadly no longer with us, Jeff Astle and Tony Hakeley. They came through the same kind of system, not called an academy in those days,
Sure.
but with the same objectives of bringing young players through. It's a very big challenge, isn't it? It's a bigger challenge, I think, tell me again if I'm wrong, but I think it's a bigger challenge than having a massive checkbook that you can say, yes, we'll buy him for 500,000 or 3 million or 25 million or whatever in this crazy football world. I think it's a bigger challenge than that.
It is a challenge. I think it's more of a challenge for the top teams in the Premier League, because it's easy for them to go and buy the next best player in the world. So it's a bigger challenge for them. I think going forward is going to be a bigger challenge for them, keeping on to their younger players who want to play and don't want to play in the reserves or whatever. They're going to want to play eventually. What I call playing real football, earning their living. At this level, I think it's doable. The club has got a rich history of producing its own players. The county has a rich history of producing players.
You played with some of them.
And I played with some of them, absolutely. And
Mark Draper, Tommy Johnson, to name but two
yes,
stars.
Yes. Well, you know, and Tommy's from the northeast, but
Yes.
he produced by us. But I do firmly believe there are talented footballers in this county that want to play for Notts County and want to play for Nottingham Forest. And you know, it's once we've scouted those players that have talent, it's what we do once they're in the building, and we need a pathway for those players. We need a great coaching program. We need to instill in them some of the values and standards that professional footballers need. We need to give them the confidence and the techniques and the training and everything else that they need, knowledge of the game. But ultimately, if we haven't got a way of getting them opportunities to train with the first team and play with the first team, we are never going to know how good they can be.
What have you found so far? It's early days, but what have you found so far as the ability, the talent in the academy is that you've inherited?
In my short time, this has been a week and a half, I have watched the players train, watched them play, and we've got some unbelievable talent here. That's my opinion. We've got some very good talent here that need nurturing, need the right coaching, they need the right teaching, and they need the confidence to be as good as they can be. You know, I want to instill a real growth mindset in them all, that they can be whatever they want to be, really, as long as they put the work in. But they've got to have the right mindset, and you know, ultimately, there's no substitution for hard work and putting the time in. You know, repetition. You know, you look and speak, you listen to people like Ian Wright and his story. I've been reading it lately, and it's phenomenal. You know, he was obsessed with making himself better, and that's all it takes.
Anybody in any sport who reaches to the top, for the stars, so to speak, they have about them that desire to work because they know it leads to progress. It's about character, isn't it?
It is. It's the character to believe in yourself, and no matter what's happening around you, do what you need to do for yourself. There's always time to be with your mates and do the other things, but you know, you have to develop that character trait that means you're going to be focused and do what you have to do to advance yourself. And if it means leaving your best mates behind, so be it. You know, when I left London and wanted to play semi-professional football, if I hang on to my mates, I'd probably still be hanging around with them now.
Were they bad mates?
Some of them were, yes. And some of them are not around now. Some of them ended up in prison and all sorts, on drugs, you know, deadbeat jobs. So, you know, you have to understand as you get older the people around you that are good for you and the ones that are not so good for you.
Do you talk to your young players in the academy, or will you talk to your young players about all these aspects as well as about their ability and what they need to do on the field?
Yes, all the time. I will be like their father. as I have been to my kids. You know, I've coached my kids, and it's the same. They are kids at the end of the day. Sometimes we forget that they are kids, and we try to treat them like men, and they're not.
And they're all different.
And they're all absolutely different. They're all individual. They've got individual, good points, bad points, and we have to understand that they're all going to have their unique way of learning and understanding things, taking messages on board, and if we don't understand how they do that, then we're not going to be able to give them the best service that we can.
And some will be more mature as individuals than others.
Absolutely. Without a doubt, a 16-year-old could be, mentally like a 13-year-old, or he could be like a 20-year-old. So unless we get to know them, sometimes even knowing what their background's like, their home life, their upbringing, we're not going to understand that. And some of the coaches probably won't understand it anyway. But, education is the key, and that's for everybody, not just the players but the staff as well. Knowing how young people think, and just knowing individually how they all work and what makes them tick.
You probably haven't had the chance yet, Dave, to do this, but will you in due course set these young players targets, say about where they should be in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months? In whatever way you do it, will you set them individual targets?
Yes, they all need individual targets. The EPPP has been key. It's been sort of my working life for the last 6 years. I was at the very, very beginning of the EPPP, and I got employed by Double Pass with the Premier League, and I was one of the first auditors. First set of 6 auditors, I think they were, and auditing the clubs. And I audited Chelsea, Southampton, Newcastle and Sunderland. And since then, I have obviously looked at the model, which was largely copied from the Belgian model. And the Premier League and the Football League have put their sort of stamp on certain areas. But I believe in most of it. I think we have to try something different. Ultimately, you've got to look at the evidence from Belgium, and it doesn't lie. For a small nation, over the last 10 years, they have produced some unbelievable players. So we'd be foolish not to take some of the EPPP on board.
What are its great advantages to an individual young player? What does it do for him that wouldn't happen otherwise necessarily?
Well, it sets out a real sort of framework and understanding about what they need to work on. It means that they are talking about the game, their own game, the team game, all the time, from a technical point of view, tactical point of view, physical point of view, and psychological point of view, and social within that. They're understanding what they need to be able to learn as they go through the age groups. It also means that they are target setting. The coaches are target setting for them. And whereas back in the day when I played, certainly we trained every week without a sort of real focus. We'd train and then focus on the game. The EPPP sort of focuses on having a coaching program whilst you're developing. And at the end of the week, when you go into a match day, you're focusing on trying to implement the things you've worked on that week. So you've got a coaching program that might be playing out from the back in a back three and getting crosses into the box or whatever it is. So that would be the focus for the week. Everybody, the team would have individual objectives. Sorry, the team will have objectives. Every individual will have some objectives to think about when they go into the game. Whereas in youth development, teams used to be reactive. They'd play a game on a Saturday, whatever went wrong, that's what they would work on. So now it's a bit more, we've got a program, we're going to play to our philosophy, the way we play, We're not going to worry too much about the opposition, not certainly while we're developing. There are other games for winning, like the FA Youth Cup and some cup competitions, tours and tournaments. It's a different mentality then. You want to win a bit more then. But whilst they're developing, the result is less important. And it's about the messages for the players and the combined objectives from the coach and the player about what they're trying to achieve in any given game. That then gives them the knowledge and understanding of the game as it goes on. So they're talking about the game all the time, they're reviewing their performances, and they intuitively understand the game better.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, and I want to come back to it, and I do so in the context of the conversation we're just having, about young players who are under your control having the opportunity of training with the first team squad. That means that you are going to be working very closely with Neil Ardley as the overall manager of this football club, does it?
I hope so. I've spoken to Neil very briefly, but I do know he has a youth development background. I think he was Academy Manager at Cardiff.
Yes, he was.
So he understands the sort of process and gets it. Without any player getting the opportunity to, the only way you can, gauge your ability is to train with better players, and we need to get them training with better players. The better players training with better players when they're ready. Therefore, they can raise their standards. Likewise, playing games, every player wants to get the chance to cross the white line and play.
They should.
Exactly, and it's our duty, if we've got them here as a club and we're giving them pro contracts, we've got to test them, and there's only one way you can test them. I wasn't a very good trainer, I must admit.
You must have driven managers crazy.
Probably. I wasn't a very good trainer, but once I crossed that white line, I was a little bit of a different animal. I played with Steve Claridge.
Yes.
He was a worse trainer than me. But once he got onto that pitch, you'd see him with his socks rolled down. That's what he'd be like in training, strolling around, moaning about everything. But on a match day, he came alive.
When it matters.
When it matters, exactly. And if you know that as a manager, you let him get away with certain things. Other players have to be able to train very, very well during the week to get a performance out of them at the weekend. Some players are different, and if a manager doesn't understand that, then it sometimes you can be doing the players a disservice. But yeah, everybody wants players to train well, because other players may look at it and think, well, he's not trying or whatever. But it's for everybody to know everything about their teammates.
I have a photograph at home, amongst many photographs about and of Notts County, which I treasure, and you're on it, you and one other person, and the other person is Tommy Johnson, because the two of you, you and Tommy, scored the two goals to give Notts the 3-1 win over Brighton, which got Notts into the First Division back in 1990. Yeah. And we mentioned Tommy Johnson earlier, and Mark Draper as well, because they came through. Tommy Johnson came, as you said a few moments ago, he came from the northeast. He came here on recommendation and found that the first training session was taken by the club's manager, Jimmy Cyrille.
Right.
And he said to himself, this is the place for me. If the manager takes this seriously, this is the place for me. That's why he stayed.
Right.
There's a story behind everybody, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
That's Tommy's story. But that was a great day at Wembley.
It was a fantastic day. In my mind, we were never going to lose that game. That was my mindset going into it. You remember that season, we were flying, and
yes,
if there were another 5 games, we probably would have got promoted automatically.
Yeah. Well, it was a brilliant end to the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were on a roll.
Yes,
I
certainly.
can't remember the last 10 games, 6, 7, 8 wins or something. I can't remember. You might remind me.
Well, the one that stands out in my mind is winning at West Ham. That was a glorious victory at West Ham.
Yeah.
And then there was no doubt at all we were in the playoffs. And I think a lot of people felt as you felt, we're not going to lose now we've got there.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I felt that intrinsically. I don't know about the other players, but, you know, we were ultra confident at the time. I'm sure we were. You know, it was a no-brainer for me. I think Brighton, did they finish in the last spot?
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
So, yeah, whilst they were a good footballing team, you know, we were on a roll, and, you know, we were hard to beat. You know, some people might say we weren't that pretty on the eye, but we were effective.
That's what matters in football, isn't it? Being effective.
Yes, absolutely, it does. And you know, sometimes, you know, it's and the first team has to win. You know, it's all about winning for the first team. So when the manager sets his stall out and gets the team to play, you know, he knows the strengths of his team, and Neil Warnock, as he's proven,
yes, and continues to prove,
absolutely knows the strengths of his team, and the players just have to trust him.
How did you find him?
Mixed, to be honest, but no, you know, he gave me the opportunity, and I'll be forever grateful. I wouldn't be in this position now if it wasn't for Neil Warnock. It's simple as that. So, you know, I got on with him okay. He, you know, some of the things that used to go on back then were absolutely hilarious. But in spite of the things you may not have liked about him, he managed to galvanise us as a team. We used to go away to Scarborough, and we'd stay in bed and breakfast. I can remember once, Colin, staying in a bed and breakfast. Me, Tommy, and Drapes in a bedroom for three, and them two in bunk beds, and I'm on a I think I might have been on a double bed. I can't remember. The three of us in a room, and we had a hell of a scream. You know, it was cheap as chips, but that's what bonded us.
Because that was his background. He came here from Scarborough Football Club, got them into the Football League, and had two other businesses. He was a chiropodist.
Correct.
And he ran a boarding house, a guest house.
Yeah, he did. And Neil used to do our feet at least once a month. We'd do all the players' feet. He used to say, you need to look after your feet. They're the tools of your trade. You need to look after them. And he would do the players' feet. There aren't many managers that would do that.
Certainly not. No. But I could just imagine him being keen to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. On that day, of course, I mean, you deserve credit. On that day, when Notts were leading 2-1, it was still not totally certain who was going to win the game. At 2-1, anything can happen.
Yeah, sure.
You got the third, and that clinched it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what I tell everybody anyway.
Well, you can tell them I say so as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny thinking about the game. There's not the actual game itself. You know, I can remember little bits of it. It just goes so quickly. And I can remember being 2-1 up and thinking, yeah, this is edgy. You know, they were a good team, and you know, but we had a good team, as you know.
Well, strength in all parts, because we've talked about Tommy and Mark.
Great goalkeeper.
Yeah. Yes.
Two centre halves were strong.
Short and Yates.
Yeah. In the midfield, you know, we could pass it when we needed to, but we could tackle as well. But yeah, the goal obviously made a difference. I can't remember what minute it was now, Colin, but
it was fairly late on in the second half, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I don't think I had many chances in the game, if any. I think I laid in the pass for Tommy to score. Was it the first goal?
Yes, you did.
And desperate to score, obviously. You know, I grew up 2 miles from Wembley Stadium, in a place called Stonebridge. On a quiet day, you could hear the roar from Wembley. I grew up that close to Wembley Stadium in northwest London. And I think that was the first time my father came to watch me play. He wasn't a big football fan at all. It might have been the first time he came to watch me play. So I was desperate to score. But, you know, as the game went on, you know, wasn't sure I would. Little bit of a fluke goal, but who cares? I'll take them all day long. You know, at the end of the day, the newspapers, it would, you know, Tommy Johnson and Regis, the goal scorers.
And that's what the photograph tells me.
Yes, yes, it was one of those. Cross came in. It was a free kick.
Yes.
Cross came in, and you know, I jumped quite high. There was no way I was going to head the ball, and the centre half was going to get there before me. I just made myself big behind him as much as possible, hoping for a ricochet to drop somewhere. Maybe somebody would pick it up. And obviously, because my abs are so tight, the ball just flew to the net. It sort of hit me about there somewhere. Yeah. And yeah, and just went in. It's great feeling.
Doesn't matter what part of the body they come off, does it? We're coming towards the end, but I've got to mention this, I think, because you've just mentioned your dad, not really into football, but came on that day to Wembley Stadium to see you play. Because, of course, you had a big brother who was another centre forward who played for England and who we lost, and you must feel the loss particularly earlier this year, Cyrille Regis. Yes,
it's been a tough year, you know. Start of the year, and it has been tough. It was unexpected, you know. We were very close, 6 years between us. Yeah, you know, when somebody so close to you passes away, it does really make you think about your life and you know what you do with your life, you know, the things that you dream about doing with your life, because you know we're not going to be here forever. So I've had a number of those instances. My parents died 15 years ago. My elder brother died about 5 or 6 years ago. So you have those periods, but you know, Cyrille's death was say bizarre. It was surreal in a lot of instances. The outpouring of grief from this country and around the world was unbelievable. It was overwhelming at times. In the end, I had to go away for a couple of weeks, just get away, because it was unbelievable. It was, you know, the family just could not believe it. But you know, to me, it was just my brother. You know, my big brother that used to try and beat me up when we were younger and whatnot. But he left home at 19, so you know, we probably weren't. We were close, but we probably weren't as close as we could have been. 6 year gap is quite big.
Sure.
And again, you know, when he moved away from home, I was 13 or so, and I had no idea what was going on. And one minute he was playing semi-professional football, working on building sites as an electrician. Next thing I know, he's moved up to West Brom and he's not at home anymore. It took a while to understand what was going on. But no, he looked after me. I used to go up there all the time. Whenever he'd come to London, he'd take me shopping. I'd tag along. Was he in the crowd at Wembley for your Wembley appearance? I believe so. Yeah, I think so.
You would think so?
Yeah.
You would expect that?
Yeah, I would expect it, yeah. I can't remember now, actually, but I'm sure he was.
Yes. Last word is this. Every Notts County supporter would say to you what I'm going to say to you, okay? And it is to wish you all the very best, every possible success in this important new role, managing Notts County's Academy. The best of luck.
Thank you very much, Colin. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And good to see you again.
And you. And you.
As always.
Hear, hear.